Hey, I'm Blair Best. It's Friday here on The Story, and tonight we're going back in time, more than 8 decades, looking at immigration policy and civil rights as it pertains to World War II Japanese internment camps in the Northwest, what's changed and what hasn't in the years since. Plus, we travel to Eastern Oregon, where a once struggling owl is now thriving, how the military and apple juice played a role. But first, an update on Oregon's psilocybin therapy program. It's been up and running for more than 2 years now, and we've got the results of a first-of-its-kind study. It's our big story tonight. Psilocybin is the psychedelic compound that occurs naturally in some mushrooms, commonly called magic mushrooms. Oregon became the first state in the nation to set up a legalized framework for psilocybin, thanks to the passage of Measure 109 back in 2020. Research suggests psilocybin can help address things like depression, anxiety, trauma, and addiction. The FDA even designated psilocybin as a breakthrough therapy, despite the substance still being illegal at the federal level. Now, there's a very strict process for how the program works here in Oregon for those who want to take it. So let's start tonight with a refresh on how the program works.
It's a 3-step model. It includes preparation, and this where there's extensive paperwork, intake screening to make sure that the client is matched with the appropriate facilitator, and to really figure out what the client's goals are, and to develop an individual safety and transportation plan with the client. The next step is administration. This program happens at a licensed psilocybin center. Service centers. So the psilocybin is consumed on site. You must be 21 years of age or older in order to participate. And a facilitator who has been trained and licensed by the state will support you through your session, and you'll stay on site until your journey is complete. The last step in the process is integration. And this is really the meaning making from the administration session. And this 3-step process from most facilitators takes anywhere from 12 to 15 hours.
Now, since the first service center opened its doors in May of 2023, there are now 24 such centers across the state, more than 360 licensed and trained facilitators who help you through the process. All in all, more than 12,000 people have gone through the program in the past 2+ years. But the biggest barrier to the program is cost. Insurance companies are not operating in this realm just yet, and a single session, preparation, administration, and integration can cost several $1,000s. Part of the reason for that is because of the state licensing fees. Facilitators, have to pay $2,000 a year for service centers. It's $10,000. And even the manufacturers who grow the mushrooms pay $10,000 a year. All of those combined, plus the spiderweb of regulations for each step of the process, push the cost to consumers higher and higher. But some people argue that psilocybin treatment should not just be for the rich, per se. So researchers from OHSU and the National University of Natural Medicine studied the effects of psilocybin on people considered low income who have major depressive disorders. Not only does it give those people a chance to try a treatment that is financially out of reach, it's also much cheaper for researchers compared to a traditional clinical trial. The number of clients that have gone through Oregon's psilocybin program so far is more than 5 times the number of people that have gone through all clinical psilocybin trials combined. So the environment here is ripe for study. And this was the first time psilocybin therapy was studied in a state-regulated real-world model. Here's how it worked. 19 people completed it. Each of them went through the psilocybin process twice in small groups. 2 online preparation sessions, 2 administration sessions, which must be done at a service center, and 2 integration sessions, also done online. And after each session, they were surveyed using clinical measures, and those surveys were repeated 3 months afterwards as well.
So the primary outcome that we were interested in, it was depression. And so we used the Hamilton Depression Rating Scale, which gives you a score between 0 and 30, where above 23 is very severe depression. And at baseline, the middle score, close to the average, was around the cusp of 23. It was, I think, 22 in here. And so you can see after treatment 1, The average goes down quite a bit, goes even down further at the completion of treatment after treatment 2. And then we did a 3-month follow-up again. And as is the case in most psychedelic research, there is a little bit of a rebound on average, but still remained incredibly positive.
Researchers also noted that during the study, there were no serious so-called adverse events. That would be like a bad trip on mushrooms that may require some to go to the hospital or be stabilized. But there were some expected side effects.
The adverse events that we did see were very minor temporary things that you expect in a psychedelic intervention. A couple people threw up, a few more people felt nauseous temporarily, some headaches, moments of a little disorientation, but nothing serious. And then we asked them, how satisfied they were with their experience overall. Nobody rated below a 4 out of 5. And most skewed toward a 5 out of 5. So we ended up with 4.8 on average of those who completed the study.
Okay, we talked about the cost for treatment like this earlier. Well, here's what it would have cost in this group or cohort setting if it wasn't part of a study like this. More than $11,000 total, more than half of which was for facilitator costs, charging a whopping $140 an hour. Had someone gone through the same process alone, it would have cost around $4,500. Again, that's for 2 full sessions from start to finish. Researchers concluded this study provides more evidence that psilocybin can be an effective treatment, even in groups.
This feasibility study demonstrated that a low-income population with depression can really benefit from psilocybin therapy done in a group. It was safe, it was well tolerated, and we saw really meaningful improvements in their lives.
The effects of just two small treatments can have months, if not years, of effect on people and improve so many other aspects of their lives. Often in medication trials, we hear about all of the horrible side effects of medications. They fix one problem, but then create 10 others. Whereas what we're seeing with psilocybin and other psychedelics is that we get side improvements. Not only does the depression get better, but so does the sleep, so does family relationships, so does one's ability to just show up in the world and work.
Now, one of the organizations who helped fund this study has an aggressive goal of trying to get health insurance companies involved in reimbursing for psilocybin treatment by 2030, saying that it can actually save money in the long run in treating mental illness. Another study at OHSU is underway now, looking at longer-term outcomes from psilocybin treatment. That's set to be completed later this year. Well, if you've gone through the legal psilocybin process in Oregon, we want to hear from you. Or maybe you've gone through the not-so-legal route, but have something to say about magic mushrooms. Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Well, turning now to an update on our Uncommitted series. The Oregon Health Authority has racked up more than $250,000 in fines since June, connected to how many mentally ill people in jail are waiting for treatment at the state hospital. OHA released data on its fines today. So far, the agency has been ordered to pay nearly $290,000, part of a federal judge's order finding the state in contempt. The judge requires OHA to pay $500 per day for each criminal defendant ordered to receive mental health treatment who waits longer than a week in county jails. Now, these are called aid and assist cases, meaning those people are meant to get mental health treatment so they can aid and assist in their own defense. Oregon has largely failed to meet federal standards for decades. The judge says OHA must pay the fines while the organization appeals the ruling. An independent court monitor is leading a plan for how the money will be spent. The fines are required to be reinvested into the behavioral health care system, effectively forcing an investment, but also potentially forcing cuts at OHA. Well, now to an update on a story that we brought you earlier this year regarding the possible cancellation of Portland Center Stage's upcoming season. Well, good news tonight. The city's largest theater company's season is on, as millions of dollars came from both donors and the state just in time. For several years, the company says it has been operating with no wiggle room, a pattern they just couldn't sustain. Back in May, they said they needed to raise $9 million in just over a year or face possible closure. Well, this week, they announced they're well on their way with $3.6 million, $1 million more than their first benchmark, and 2 weeks ahead of schedule.
It's amazing to sit here right now. You know, there's always a moment of doubt in the beginning, but this moment kind of erases all of that, and it's super motivating.
Well, nearly 2,000 donors opened their wallets and wrote checks, some for as little as $5. State lawmakers stepped up too, with a bill supporting all arts and culture. For Portland Center Stage, that meant $1.5 million. Now, of the $9 million they're raising, $4 million will cover annual expenses for the season that kicks off in October. The remaining $5 will give Portland Center Stage enough reserves to ensure the company's future. Well, coming up next on the story, President Trump's immigration crackdown is bringing back echoes of the past for some Japanese Americans who were forced into internment camps during World War II. The similarities and differences between then and now, and an important question to ask ourselves. That's next when the story returns. "83 years ago, the U.S. government sent thousands of Japanese Americans, many from the Seattle area, to a prison camp in south-central Idaho known as Minidoka. The camp meant they had to move more than 600 miles away from the life they knew. Tonight, Rachel Kim shows us how the legacy of incarceration at Minidoka still echoes in today's immigration policies and debates over civil rights.
As it smiles above the trees in Idaho, December 7th, 1941, when I heard on the radio that Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor, we were shocked.
Citizens and aliens alike would have to move. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act.
The use of the Alien Enemies Act today is, in some ways, even more egregious than it was in World War II.
This country of ours haven't learned at all. I'm a Fujiko gardener. I'm 93 years old and a survivor of Minidoka camp. Right here. This is me. I was born in Fife, Washington. We were financially poor but rich in many ways because we lived on a farm. It was a happy life.
A state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
The Alien Enemies Act of 1798 is the legal justification that was invoked to round up Japanese American community leaders immediately after Pearl Harbor. And this is the part of the history that many people don't know. It did not begin with Executive Order 9066.
All persons of Japanese descent were required to register.
Executive Order 9066 is the order that was signed by President Franklin Roosevelt. It was used to justify the incarceration of over 125,000 Japanese Americans on the West Coast.
I remember getting a new metal lightweight suitcase that I filled with some clothes and things. We had to go on the big truck to Puyallup.
So most Japanese Americans in the Seattle area were initially held at a temporary concentration camp on the Puyallup Fairgrounds.
I've always looked forward to the fair because of their hamburger. It was a shock to see the mass of Japanese people and to see all the soldiers in their uniform with carrying a rifle. How can one place change to such a sad place? From the Puyallup Assembly Center, we were boarded on the rickety old train coming from Washington State where everything is green and going to Idaho where everything is dry. It was a sad, sad train ride. We saw was miles of black barracks. So it was a dismal scene in Idaho. Being incarcerated at Minidoka really felt like we were in jail. You didn't have privacy when you went to take your shower or when you went to the bathroom. We knew my father had changed drastically, and so we were aware that he would be capable of ending his own life.
Meaningful, insightful tour led by Kelsey and her grandma.
There was also open cracks in the walls, and so the tar paper couldn't keep the dust.
My granddaughter is interested in learning more about Minidoka. We've gone to 8 pilgrimages together.
I'm a quarter Japanese, so my only connection to the Japanese American community was through my grandma. Walking that space together, it might have just been my grandmother's history, but now that we've experienced together, it's our history and it's my history.
The Japanese Americans had made a good example of what immigrants can do for the United States.
A dramatic escalation of President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown.
This country of ours have not learned anything from the past.
I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798.
Today, the Alien Enemies Act is used to designate immigrants as an invading force, as if that we are at war with other nations, other communities whose people are coming to the U.S. for a better life. It is, in some ways, even more egregious than it was in World War II.
It's just unbelievable to me what immigrants are faced with today.
And all of the experiences of the World War II Japanese American incarceration leaves me with just questioning, what does it mean to be an American? And how do you prove your Americanness
The detention centers that are holding immigrants today are in many ways reflective of the experiences of Japanese Americans incarcerated at places like Minidoka and Puyallup.
I'm worried about our country today.
What can people do now? It is important for people not to lose hope, not to accept the continued dehumanization and scapegoating of immigrants. It's important to recognize that then the people who are making these decisions, that immigrants are not indeed a threat to our country.
If history repeats itself over and over, we need to make sure that it will never happen again.
So that story brings up a point that I believe is worth all of us thinking about. What does it mean to be an American? Is it just being a citizen, meaning you were either born here or went through the citizenship process? Or are there values and beliefs attached to being an American? The idea of freedom, the principles of the Constitution? Give it some thought. Then send us what you come up with. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. We're back right after this. Well, it is that time of year. The KGW School Supply Drive is going on now. This week, you can donate at the register of any Safeway store. Your donations stay local and support your neighborhood school district. And Rick's Custom Fencing will match the first $5,000 donated this week, doubling your donation and helping more students. We want to thank On Point Community Credit Union, Safeway, and Rick's Custom Fencing for everything they're doing to make this year's supply drive a success. Well, Christmas is just 132 days away, and while you may not be thinking about it, Christmas tree growers and sellers are. They gathered near Estacada today for a Christmas tree convention of sorts, from small U-cut farms to mega growers. Oregon is producing nearly 5 million trees this year, as we're the #1 grower of Christmas trees in the country and likely the world. At today's event, growers learned the latest from retailers about what consumers are looking for, and retailers can learn from growers about how to keep cut trees as fresh as possible for you.
Everybody has a little bit different technique. You know, there's experience from years and years ago, and it's just great to share that knowledge to, you know, expand on what we know, learn from each other.
Being in the Christmas tree business is awesome. It's really a feel-good. I wouldn't want to do anything else, and we only hope that our customers enjoy the trees as much as we enjoy growing them.
Well, this year's industry event ends tomorrow. Harvest time, not terribly far away. And out in eastern Oregon, a colony of tiny owls is thriving thanks to old apple juice barrels. These are burrowing owls. They're tiny little birds who nest in the ground instead of trees. But out at the Reese Training Center, it's a National Guard training center in Hermiston, they were starting to die off. Back in 2008, there were only 4 nesting pairs left. That's when conservationists stepped in. The Oregon Military Department, the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, and the Global Owl Project came up with a plan to help them survive. Conserving the owls is a win-win for the owls, but also for the military, because if burrowing owls got onto the endangered species list, it would restrict the military from using that land.
Our primary concern of the DoD is ensuring that we keep our training lands unrestricted. And so by conserving the species and keeping it from being listed on the endangered species list, because it is in decline across its range, we can ensure military training can continue unrestricted.
Okay, here's how it works. The owls naturally will burrow into holes made by badgers, which cave in after a year or two. Well, badgers had left the area, so the team came up with a system of artificial burrows for the owls. They're made out of repurposed apple juice barrels donated from Treetop Apple Juice in Washington. They're buried in the ground with a hose leading out, and the owls love it.
As soon as we put in a new burrow system, those burrows are immediately occupied. And the beauty of them is the whole point that makes it very complementary to our training, our military training, is that anytime we have a conflict with maybe a location or a training exercise, if we have a new development or need to use a certain piece of land in which a burrow is at, we can dig those burrows up and move them out of harm's way. And they're immediately reoccupied very quickly by the owls, even in the same season.
Johnson says the area is now hosting more than 100 nesting pairs of burrowing owls, and the population doubled from 2023 to 2024. Some good news there, and cute owls to end the work week. That's the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Timbers 360 is coming up next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. Have a great weekend. I'll see you right back here Monday night at 6:30.